My advice to beginner home bakers is usually to stick to using mostly strong white wheat flour, which facilitates the formation of a strong gluten network. Still, there is a kind of bread that, despite a high content of wholemeal flour, is easily shaped and proves nicely. It's graham bread. Today I will be making graham bread rolls. The full written recipe can be found on the blog. I will need a lot of graham flour. I'll use much less strong white wheat flour. Apart from these, I'll also use water, salt, and yeast. In my case, it's fresh yeast, but it can be swapped for dry, with the caveat that only half as much will be needed. Additionally, I'll use a bit of rice flour, but it's optional. I pour water into a bowl. Next, I toss in the yeast, break it up, and then stir so it dissolves a bit. I add all of the prepared flour. Finally, I add salt. I use a scraper to roughly mix the ingredients, but finish as soon as they come together and I don't see dry flour anymore. I flip the dough onto the canter. I fill one of my empty bowls with water. I'll be using it to wet my hands while kneading in case the dough is too sticky. I begin kneading. My goal is to form as strong a gluten network as possible. It won't be as strong as with just white flour because pieces of bran tend to weaken the gluten considerably. After a minute of kneading, the dough isn't cohesive yet. When I stretch it, it quickly starts tearing. I continue to knead. This takes around 10 minutes. When the dough is fully kneaded, I am able to easily form it into a tight ball. The window pane test shows that the gluten is already formed nicely. Obviously, I won't be able to stretch the dough super thin, but this gluten strength is more than sufficient considering the fact that the dough's hydration isn't too high. I put a few drops of oil on the dough. While it's proving, I cover it with cling film and the oil will prevent it from sticking. This way the dough won't dry out. The fermentation takes approximately an hour and a half. The proving time varies depending on the amount and condition of the yeast, as well as dough temperature, so it's better to use its volume as an indicator, not the time. My dough rose quite a bit, more than doubling in size. I remove the cling film from the oiled dough surface. I knock the dough back or degas it. I also fold it a couple of times in order to equalize the temperature in all parts of the dough. I weigh the dough and divide the mass by 10 to get the mass of a single roll. Then I proceed to divide the dough. I form each piece into a roll. I lay the piece flat and fold the edges inwards. This creates some surface tension. Next, I place the folded piece on the counter and roll it with my hand, rounding it and stretching the gluten surface even more. I place the formed rolls on a baking tray lined with parchment paper. I space the rolls out, since I don't want them to touch as they prove. I will need 2 trays. Before the final prove, I dust the rolls with some rice flour. It will serve the same purpose as the oil did. It'll prevent the cling film from sticking. The final prove usually takes less than the initial one. In my case, it was just shy of 1 hour. The rolls have risen nicely, so it's time to bake them. Before I do, however, I decide to run a little experiment. I don't usually score graham rolls, but I want to see how they look when they're scored. I use a scalpel to cut a cross. Then I place the rolls in a preheated oven. They'll bake for around 15 minutes. Graham rolls don't become browned a lot, so it's a bit difficult to visually tell when exactly they're ready. I remove the first batch from the oven. They don't look as good as I'd hoped. The cuts weren't deep enough. I leave most of the rolls in the second batch unscored. I only score one using scissors. I make the cuts at a 45-degree angle. I place one blade over the roll's center, the other one over the side. I make 4 incisions, creating 4 horn-like protrusions. Next, I place the rolls in the oven. Once they're baked, I see that the scissors did a very nice job compared to the scalpel. The horns on the experimental roll created a very interesting shape. I place all the rolls on a wire rack to let them cool down without the water vapor making them soggy on the bottom. Since the first batch is already cool enough to eat, I decide to taste one. The bottom is perfectly baked through, which I can tell by knocking my finger against it. It should make a hollow sound. The roll is soft. I cut the roll open and I can see the crumb is dark and rather tight. The aroma is rich, just as the taste is. Graham rolls are great for making sandwiches and provide a certain amount of dietary fiber. It's one of the healthiest and, in my opinion, tastiest types of bread.